you might want to delay a purchase of the house as long as humanly possible if you don't need it emotionally. I can really just spend the Bitcoin that I earn because Bitcoin is money and it's supposed to be used. If I can invest in my knowledge, in my skills, that's probably the only place you can put your Bitcoin that has a higher return on investment than just keeping it in Bitcoin. Once we get Bitcoin, all of a sudden we get this fear of missing out, of like, I want to get more Bitcoin. Oh shit, like what if it shoots up like crazy tomorrow? How can I save my finances? How can I save the finances of my family, of my company, of my whatever? And we can only hope that the nation state we are living in embraces Bitcoin at some point. If not, we might have to consider the move. And for me, everyone is a Bitcoiner who holds or uses Bitcoin in some capacity. But if you really want to benefit and embrace that new revolution, go as all in as you possibly can. An extremely personal podcast. I loved how Leah was asking questions, really, really good questions, actually. And the three key topics that we've discussed is basically my journey, how I'm living on a Bitcoin standard, what you can learn also from like living on a Bitcoin standard, how you do that. But we also discussed late in the podcast how Bitcoin is a completely global paradigm shift and what this actually means for Bitcoin and also for our society, and how we can learn from the past to kind of predict what will happen to Bitcoin and what will happen to our society once Bitcoin is actually successful and actually mainstream. So enjoy.
Robin, how the devil are you, sir?
I'm doing really good. Thank you so much for having me.
Good, mate. This is a blessing. I really appreciate you accepting my invite to come on to this random, very much unknown Bitcoin podcast based out of the United Kingdom, considering, the scope and clout that you have clearly on YouTube and in the podcast space. I consider myself, I don't know, very small in your presence.
Oh man, I just got started a year ago. I consider myself still somewhat of a small player, but I guess that's always from, you always feel a little bit like an imposter syndrome. You always feel a little bit like smaller than you actually are, and you would be surprised how many people say like, oh, I really like listening to this guy. He's asking good questions. He has good points, and I don't know how much you're on conferences where you actually meet people that all of a sudden come up to you and like actually listen to the show, they watch it. I even had people, and this is what I love the most, when people come up to me and say like, oh, your show got me orange belt, and I'm like, that's wow. The whole point of my show, getting new people to Bitcoin. And yeah, there's a lot of I'm aware most of my listeners are actually already Bitcoiners because they listen to Bitcoin podcasts and then they find me, and YouTube is really good in finding people that already like that kind of a content. So like Bitcoiners that already watch Bitcoin content are more likely to find my content. But there's here and there someone that just types in, hey, today there's some, maybe I want to learn about investing, and then there's some topic with investing in stocks and Bitcoin, and he stumbles upon one video. Maybe there's like Jeff Poof and me talking, and then they're like, oh, like that sounds really interesting, I never heard that. And then like going down, because I already have 500 episodes. So that's what I'm really passionate about, finding new people that haven't discovered Bitcoin and kind of like, oh, like what's that Bitcoin thing? And then they can go down, I think, 500, 600 hours of watch time wow. On my channel now.
Yeah. Congratulations on your success of your channel. Like doing it every day that's a hell of a job, man. How are you coping with that? And why did you decide to, you obviously, I'm making an assumption, decided to go all in, literally, on your YouTube channel. So first of all, well done. That's amazing. Second of all, what possessed you, and are you mad?
I definitely am. It's the reason why is unfortunately a very stupid reason, but I will still tell you, and then I can maybe also go to the question of how am I coping with that one. I started the podcast with the same idea in the head, coming from IT security sales, that when I write 10 people, I get like 2 messages back. And I came into the Bitcoin podcasting world, and was writing, let's say, I think it was 30 or 40 people that I wanted to have on the podcast. I had like the first 30 to 40 people. And I was like, okay, maybe 5 to 10 people reply. And then I have my first like 10 episodes. And I was surprised. Almost everyone replied, and almost everyone, I think it was like 3 or 4 people that did not reply, and maybe like 2 or 3 people more that said like, oh, thank you so much for asking, but currently I don't do podcasts. So I had, after 40 outreach, all of a sudden 30 guests. And with one podcast per week, you have 30 weeks. That's more than half a year of podcasts already. So I kept pushing and writing people, and all of a sudden I had months out planned. So I had logically to increase my frequency. I went from once a week to twice a week to 3 times a week. And then I said, okay, I will do now for 1 month every day. And then I will go back to 3-4 times a week. And this was the month where I really shot up for the first time. I got over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Jeff Booth was on. This was a really good month for my channel. And then I was like, why? I just discovered something that is working. Why should I go back now? And since then, I'm stuck with once a day. And the bad thing is now everyone asks me about this why every day. And I researched, is there another podcast, not even about Bitcoin, like is there another podcast that does an interview with a different person every single day? And to this day, I couldn't find any. Like I couldn't just find any other podcast that does an interview podcast. So not solo episodes, not like a group that's always the same, but an interview podcast where there's every time a different guest on, every single day, 7 times a week. It's also funny because I say every day, and a lot of people assume I do it 5 times a week. No, I do it like also Saturday, Sunday, on Christmas, like Eastern, 365 days a year. So there's no excuses. There's no like laying off or anything like that. And this is kind of accidentally become a unique branding of my podcast. So now I'm feeling I cannot take this away. It's like, this is now stuck with me, and stuck with me in a positive way, honestly. And maybe at some point, if I reach 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 episodes, I might look into what it takes to get a Guinness World Record. Maybe I started now a podcast where I realistically can get a Guinness World Record for the most interview podcast episodes ever recorded. That would be something cool. I would definitely like that. This was not on my plan when I started the podcast, but those things, and how cool would it be if this podcast is a Bitcoin podcast that gets a Guinness World Record for that, and like connected with proof of work. So I'm just a guy that started the podcast and then all of a sudden did it all in, because it was well received, and I really like it, and I really like and really enjoy talking with people about Bitcoin, but also about life in general. The podcast is about Bitcoin, but there's like 20-30% of the topics where we are going into diet, into sports, into other regions. But they're like, I would say like 80% or something like that is Bitcoin talk. And finance talk, and a little bit outside of that. So yeah, it's really good. And the second question is the coping question. It is now really good. Honestly, I have now an editor. I have a publishing team. I have basically 3 people, 3 freelancers that work with me on the podcast. So it's not just me anymore. Till February this year, till February 2025, it was just me every day, 60, 70 hours a week. Now I actually outsourced some of the important works. But it's still, you have to record every week, every day. I don't record on Monday, Saturday, and Sunday. That means I have to record on Tuesday till Friday, 2 to 3 times per day. Also because sometimes I'm on conferences, then I don't record on conferences, and those things. And then there's days where I just record 4 times in a row. And the only let's say the only bad thing was previously when I did not had breaks, when there was Saturday, Sunday, and Monday also recordings. Then you're just in this constant recording loop, and then there's maybe a down day where you don't feel like that good, or you're like a little bit sick, or like you're a little bit tired, and this then shows in the podcast, and this is not good. So I always want to be extremely fit. I want to be present in the moment and don't want to like half die in the podcast, because then like why record a podcast if you're like so tired? So now I'm coping with it really good because I gave myself breathing room, relaxing room on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to do other things. I still work every day, but it's a different. If you really have to record, you're in a different mood. It's a different kind of a work. If you're just strategizing or you're writing something, you can do it on the couch also. If you are one day a little bit tired, you can relax a little bit more with that sometimes. But if you're recording, like it's that time, and there's a guest, and you have to be in front of the camera, and all those things are a little bit more. It needs a little bit more social energy, but it in general it needs more energy.
Yeah, it takes a hell of a lot of energy to do what you're doing. Fair play. I mean, I work full time and I do this. I've been doing it for a year, but really took it seriously since Christmas. And I record on a Friday, 8 o'clock at night. It's not the best, but you got to try and shoehorn it in sometimes. And even doing this is like, I mean, I know I kind of say that I work full time as well, but my God, it's hard work. And especially when you've done the recording, it's like, okay, well, now I have to mess about with the editing and then upload it, and it is hard work, man. It's no easy feat by any means.
And it's the things that people don't see, because people see like 1.5 hours of podcast recording, maybe 2 hours of recording. But each hour of recording requires another 4 hours of post-production, because we also do a trailer. So we have to find snippets. Then we also do clips, 20-minute clips for second channel. We do shorts under 1 minute for main and second channel. So there's a lot of distribution work. And it's not only just YouTube. It's also going out on all the audio platforms. It goes on Spotify also. It goes on Fountain. It goes on Twitter. Twitter, there's like an introduction of 5 minutes. This goes out there. It's again a different video. Then every platform needs a little bit of a different title, a little bit of different description. Then there's like tags on YouTube, but on Spotify there are no tags. If you look in the detail, it's actually not that trivial. You're like, oh, like I record, I stop, and I upload, and that's it. Like there's a lot of work that goes into that, in the process, in the infrastructure. And then once you're at the point where it runs so good that you make money from that, and so you can outsource things from that, then you have to deal with sponsors. You have to keep them in the loop. Then you have to deal with freelancers, keep them organized. All of a sudden, you're managing clients or like sponsors or partners, however you want to call them, and you have to manage freelancers, and you go to conferences. I'm on next weekend, I'm in Dublin. Then I come home, have 1 day in Vienna, then I fly to Las Vegas. In the middle of the June, I'm in Prague. Then in July, I'm at 2 conferences. So I'm also at 1-2 conferences per month. And this is all just a podcast. So I don't have a business. I don't sell anything. I don't have a book. I don't have anything that I sell. I don't have a service or anything else than the podcast. So most podcasters also have something to sell. Like they have some kind of business model, or they work at a business. I only have my partners that support me. So if I ever want to do also that, it's like founding another startup and making another business out of that. And it's a lot. But it's really fulfilling. You learn so much. I've learned, I said that previous on a podcast, but I've learned in the last 2 years more than in the previous 20 years.
So what got you into Bitcoin in the first place?
The curiosity, what to do with my money. I was always a really savings personality. I have this one story where I was a small kid in undergraduate school. I don't know how it's called in the UK, but basically I was what I don't know 10 years old or something like that, and I got pocket money every day from my mom. And the interesting thing is I got, I don't know, maybe €4, and from that €4 I always took out €1 or €2 to save a little bit each day to maybe and I didn't even want to buy anything. I was a somewhat spoiled kid. I had parents that if I really wanted something and needed it, then they gave it to me. If I needed a phone, I needed a gaming console or anything like that. I was not a poor child, but I always saved for myself. For some reason, really intrinsically, I knew I had to save. So when I got to the age of 18 years old, I already worked next to school. So I had a small job next to school where I worked, and I did not have to pay rent. I did not have to pay anything else than what I wanted to do outside of the normal things. So I basically saved 90% of my income, which allowed me with 18 years old to already think about investing, think about savings. And I started where everyone starts, with a savings account at the bank. But then I quickly realized that's not good. Then I went into ETFs and funds, and then I was like, oh, it's also not that good. You have a lot of fees. The developments are not that big. And I was like, okay, then individual stocks. I looked into individual stocks, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I did that for, I think, 3 years, 2-3 years. And then with 21 years old, I found Bitcoin. And this is basically because stocks went really good, people kept asking me about that Bitcoin thing. And I always said, Bitcoin is, for me, a scam. Bitcoin is something that has no cash flow. I was coming from the stock world. So if it has no cash flow, how can I measure it? Like, how do I know it's not a scam? Like the greater fool theory. And with that in mind, I one day got a friend of mine who was not even in Bitcoin. He came to me, why are you not into Bitcoin? Like, what's your reason? And I told him my reasoning, and he kept asking me, even though he was not in Bitcoin. And I discovered that I don't have good arguments. So I told him, wait, this weekend I will do research and I will show you why Bitcoin is a scam. In trying to prove that Bitcoin is a scam, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I discovered there might be something to Bitcoin. Like maybe there is something that I've missed. So actually on Monday, instead of writing my friend, hey, this is a scam because of XYZ, I opened a Coinbase account and bought a ledger on day one. I had always self-custody. I'm really proud to say I have self-custody from day one onwards. And then I'm not proud that I chose a ledger, and also not proud to chose Coinbase. But
Coinbase,
at least I had self-custody from day one. And this basically allowed me from to learn a little bit about Bitcoin. I was still very skeptical. It was not that, all of a sudden I get Bitcoin and went all in. No, it took me about, I would say, a year from discovering Bitcoin to going all in. And this was quite a journey. You discover Bitcoin and you learn a little bit. And then there's this weekend where you go down 3-4 podcasts. And the next weekend it's like 4 or 5 podcasts. And the next weekend is like 6-7 podcasts. You go down that rabbit hole, and it just keeps sucking you in more and more. And more I got that idea of, oh wait, inflation might not be good. Is inflation a bad thing maybe? And then you get in the idea of, okay, gold apparently also is a good money. I thought gold is bad. When you're, I was in stock mind so deep, in this one Buffett mindset so deep, that I did not like gold. Through Bitcoin, I learned the value of gold. So coming through that journey, I learned more and more what Bitcoin actually is and what it represents and what monetary theory really is. It's also funny, I'm Austrian. I never heard about Austrian economics. And when I first got into Bitcoin, everyone was talking about Austrian economics. And I was like, there's nothing interesting about Austria in the economic sense. Like, why are they talking about Austrian economics? And I was Googling it. Then I finally found out, oh, it's not about the current Austrian economics. And yeah, it just took me then 1 year to get all in Bitcoin, and got out of my Tesla position, got out of my Facebook position, got out of all my stock portfolio positions. And I even wanted to get into real estate, and completely went out of that. I never really went into real estate, but Bitcoin kind of prevented me to diversify in real estate. Before I discovered Bitcoin, I slowly planned of acquiring my first small real estate property to rent it out as an investment property. And luckily, I never did that. Otherwise, I would have a lot of headache with tenants and all those things, and repairing toilets and whatever you're doing with when you're a landlord.
Yeah. So you're 100% Bitcoin then?
Yes, and this is something that I actually did, I think, just 2 months ago. I also now earn in Bitcoin through the Bitcoin podcast. I have Bitcoin partners. This allows me to directly earn in Bitcoin. So from company directly to me without any third parties in between. And I have a small percentage, like one of the 3 freelancers I pay also in Bitcoin. So there's a percentage that I earn in Bitcoin and a percentage that I earn in fiat. Then there's a small percentage that I pay in Bitcoin and a big percentage that I pay in fiat, which forces me to spend Bitcoin every month. I have to sell Bitcoin basically every month, which hurts, but you have to come to the realization it's not about buying or selling Bitcoin. It's about getting a little bit more sats every month. It does not matter if you. It does not matter if you buy 2,000 Satoshis this month or you buy 10,000 Satoshis and sell 8,000. It's the same freaking thing. Yeah. But this was really hard for me to come over, that I can spend my Bitcoin, that it's okay to press the sell button. I don't have to I don't have to now go into debt and have a big credit line. I can really just spend the Bitcoin that I earn, because Bitcoin is money and it's supposed to be used as money. So yes, I'm 100% in Bitcoin. I have a overdraft bank account. So whenever I have to spend, I go in overdraft. End of the month, I'm paying off the overdraft with the money I earn.
Yeah. Okay. I see that. Is how do the government in Austria or the banks, are they dovish on Bitcoin transactions, or do you find that there's a bit of friction with it? Because over here in the UK, it's really, really difficult to try and transact in Bitcoin. Not that anybody really spends Bitcoin in the UK, but it's kind of hard, and we have had a lot of friction with banks closing down accounts and just making it generally very, very difficult.
There are 2 sides to the story. The one side is I'm at a challenger bank. I'm at a bank that is quite new. It's not a bank that's there for hundreds of years. The bank was founded, I think, 10 years ago. It has the normal bank license and everything like that. But when you look at the management team, there are 1 or 2 Bitcoiners or crypto people in there. So they're a little bit more open to the idea. You can buy and sell Bitcoin at that bank also, even though you cannot withdraw it, but at least they have the option to buy and sell Bitcoin and other cryptos. So they're completely normal with it. They if there's a Bitcoin in the transaction description, they don't do anything fishy with that, and I never had any problems. I have third-party tools like Bull Bitcoin and Bring In, where I can go from my hardware wallet to my fiat bank account, N26 I use, within 5 minutes. So basically, Bring In, for example, gives me a Bitcoin invoice. I pay that Bitcoin invoice. They are converting it to fiat euros, and with instant SEPA, I get the money on my bank account. So I can convert on my self-custody setup to my fiat bank account, Bitcoin, no matter what the amount is, directly to my bank account with no friction at all on Sunday afternoon or evening, which is amazing. So actually, in that sense, Bitcoin and the fiat banking system works really good together. Like that's the one part of the story. But there's another part of the story. I worked in Germany for 1.5 years, and there I got to know that my bank account, the same bank account from N26, is flagged because apparently my bank account does not discriminate me, but other bank accounts discriminate me. So when my employer in the first month wanted to pay me, I said to him, "Oh, I did not get my money." And he's like, "Oh, that's weird. I gave it to you." And then they looked at the transaction. It failed. And they called the bank of like, "Hey, why did this transaction fail?" And the bank told them, "Yeah, that's a fishy bank account you're transferring money to, and we won't allow that." And
it's for your protection.
It's for your protection. And the CEO said, "I know this guy. He works for me. Please transfer him money. Otherwise, I'm not legally like he worked already for me. He needs money." Then eventually they made an exception. So they like, okay, if you fill out that form and give a signature that you really like to send him money, then you can send him money. So I got to know that because of my Bitcoin activities, got flagged. I never got really into problems because of that. It just was a little bit inconvenient. My boss is a really cool one, and he knows about all the Bitcoin things. My previous boss, I don't have any anymore, of course. And he was just asking, "Oh, like, do you do anything outside of Bitcoin also, or just buying Bitcoin?" I was like, "Just buying Bitcoin." So I personally never got really into troubles. But I would say that from those two stories I just told, choose your bank wisely. Like find a bank that is a little bit more modern, a little bit newer. There are banks that offer Bitcoin and crypto. Just use them. Like go for those banks that actually support the mission, embrace Bitcoin and crypto, and with those you will have less problems. I'm not saying you have zero problems. As I told you, I had problems, small one, but still. And I think that's where the game theory also starts, because there are younger banks, there are modern banks, there's community banks that already embrace it. Also in Germany, there's the Volksbank Bayern Mitte. And they are not only embracing Bitcoin, you can buy and sell Bitcoin there. They're even holding one of the biggest German Bitcoin-only conferences in Germany. There are like 1,000 people there, and they support that whole thing. And they are a normal community bank that's there for, what is it, hundreds of years, something like that. It's like a really normal kind of community bank. But it's only one region. It's not the whole bank of Germany. So there are instances of fiat banks that are really friendly to Bitcoin. And I'm just saying, find those banks, give them your money if you have to give them your money. But if you if you go completely out of fiat, that's best case. But if you have to interact with the fiat system, try to interact with those people who get Bitcoin. And that's the whole game theory. Because if all the customers going to those banks, the other banks will be like, "Oh shit, we are losing customers because we do not offer Bitcoin." They will wake up. They will wake up if the CFO of the bank says, "Why we keep losing customers? Why is our customer numbers going down and down and down and down?" Then they are asking customers why they're leaving. And I get the Bitcoin. Oh, I guess we have to offer that now. So I encourage everyone, vote with their feet and leave the banks that don't treat you good, because most likely there's a bank that treats you good.
Yeah, it's interesting that Germany are kind of embracing it, because you would think, and this is from my perhaps biased or skewed point of view about the German culture, is they seem to be very... what's the word I'm looking for? Uptight is the wrong word, but like they're really bureaucratic or structured, and then to throw in a red herring like Bitcoin into that banking system you just sort of think, well, that's a bit un-German-like, but clearly they're clearly far more on board than the UK. It's absolute nightmare over here at the moment, and I think it's only going to get worse.
I think in Germany,
Especially,
sorry, just a quick note. I think in Germany, the difference between the grassroots movement, how far we already are, versus how bad the politicians get it, the divergence between those is the biggest in the whole world. It's like, in America, grassroots is good, but also there's Trump that at least talks about it and goes to conferences. The vice president will be in Las Vegas. So this moves kind of simultaneously, where people in grassroots get it, but also politicians slowly get it. Germany, politicians really dislike it for some reason, but the grassroots movement is really good, and that's how the banks start treating it. Like there's one regional bank that fully embraced it and has that event, but that's just because one guy orange pilled the people in those small regional bank, and they embrace it. And this is a old bank where every region has their own CEOs. It's not centrally controlled. And Germany has one of the highest numbers of full node operators. Germany is really big on those engineering things. So the grassroots movement is really strong. The meetup culture in Germany is crazy. There are so many meetups in every small town. You can find a meetup because they're organized and they're doing all those things. Is also happening in other countries, but I've seen, and I'm in Austria, so I can see a little bit in Germany a little bit more. There's a really big grassroots movement in Germany because I think there's a big movement that is really upset with how uptight the systems are, how bureaucratic the systems are, and how bad the system is. And I think that makes it actually a good starting point for Bitcoiners to grow. But sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. That's fine. I mean, I get it. It served a purpose, since World War II. That's what made Germany what it is today. This incredibly powerful economic behemoth, but it's clearly not what's going to get them to where they need to be in the future. It's interesting the way you described some of those things then, that the leaders of the countries or these governments that are supposed to be the spearhead of the development of a country, whether it be the government or big banks, actually are very much in tow with populist movements such as Bitcoin. They tend to follow rather than lead. But you would think that actually, especially with the German engineering being what it is, that these banks and governments would lead the charge on this. But it doesn't work that way at all.
It does not. I mean, Germany has an interesting law still, which I really like. Every Bitcoin you hold longer than 1 year is tax-free. They still have that. That's really Bitcoin friendly, I would say. And it's in the Bitcoin ethos. If you hold Bitcoin for the long run, and 1 year is not even that long, you get it tax-free. So there is it. They are selling Bitcoin. Famously, the 50,000 Bitcoin they sold, I think, I don't know, around $60,000 or $50,000. What was the price around that time? So they definitely made a huge loss with that. But the laws are not that bad for Bitcoiners in Germany, and the grassroots movement is amazing. And there are so many Bitcoin pizza days. There's literally, even in Vienna, I saw 3 different Bitcoin pizza day events in Vienna, in one city, and it's just 1 million people here. So it's not that big of a city if you see other really, really big cities. I mean, 1 million people is, depending on where you are, can be a quite big city.
It does make you wonder what's going through the minds of our politicians in the UK. Like we've got 62,000 Bitcoin, through asset seizures. but our government are just not even interested in having a conversation about it. You know, we've got two people from Bitcoin Policy UK, Freddie New and Susie Ward, who do an incredible job, and they try to engage in with politicians in trying to talk about these things, but they're just completely uninterested. I don't know whether it's because of the type of government that we have right now. Maybe that's going to change at the next election. I don't know. But if what I'm led to believe is how this thing plays out, you would think that every government would be fighting each other tooth and nail to get as much of this stuff as they possibly can. Now, I don't know if it's lack of education or stupidity. What do you think?
I think we're early. I think we are definitely in a bubble when you look at Bitcoin podcasters like myself, and you talk every day with a different Bitcoiner. You have that bias that, oh, Bitcoin will break out tomorrow and everyone will get it. We all experience that. Once we get Bitcoin, all of a sudden we get this fear of missing out, of like, I want to get more Bitcoin. Oh shit, like what if it shoots up like crazy tomorrow? How can I save my finances? How can I save the finances of my family, of my company, of my whatever? But then you realize it takes a while. People don't read about Bitcoin and all of a sudden they are maxis. It takes some time that they get Bitcoin. The first time I heard Bitcoin was 2017. The first time I bought Bitcoin was 2020. And then I went all in 2021. So it took me 4 years from first time hearing to actually going full in on Bitcoin. And 4 years is quite some time. So people that now hear it and now slowly get into this, they need some years to get really used to it. This is an early process that we are currently in, and this will take some time. We always think, oh, because we are now connected and we have now WhatsApp on our phone, we now have Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, and all those platforms where we can faster interact with each other and faster communicate with each other. I mean, we have now AI. It makes it so much easier to research things. You could learn what the essence of Bitcoin is with AI super, super fast and really good also. I tried that actually going with an AI that doesn't know me and playing dumb, and it actually got me really good answers, better than Google, honestly. So I think we will see a fast and faster development, but even though communication and all those things that I just described are better and way faster, we still have the same brains. We still have the same human brains that needs time to process new information, that needs time to process change. And we see it with all different kind of innovations. We see it with the printing press. We saw it with electricity. We saw it with the internet. There are people that looked at the internet and said, "Oh, this will go away. That's just a fad." They said, "Oh, why do we need this electricity?" There was anti-electricity propaganda. There was people that say, when we have electricity, everything will burn down. The whole world will fall apart. And electricity was a lot more dangerous to implement than it is Bitcoin. So there's a lot more risk associated, actual physical risk, with building out the infrastructure for electricity than building out the infrastructure for Bitcoin. And still, people really hate Bitcoin. People really don't get Bitcoin. They feel threatened by it. Not because it threatens them, because everyone will be better off on Bitcoin, but because it's new, because it's a paradigm shift. It's a fork in the road. It's the same fork in the road that the electricity was, the fire was, the wheel was. Like every innovation ever in human history was a fork in the road. And there were those who took that fork earlier than others. And those who took it earlier, embraced it and didn't ignore it, they really got all the benefits from that because they embraced it earlier. All the companies that embraced the internet and really stick with it, like Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, they are now the big companies. And those companies that now embrace Bitcoin will be the big companies. I mean, Strategy, look at Strategy from 2020 to now. What did they do? They embraced Bitcoin, nothing else. They just embraced Bitcoin. They are so much bigger, so much bigger. I don't know the multiple actually, but it's so much bigger that it's ridiculous how much bigger Strategy, back in the day, MicroStrategy, was from 2020 to now. There was this, MicroStrategy was already there in the .com bubble, and they went down like crazy. They actually climbed that ladder up, and they're now way higher, even in the peak of the 2000 .com bubble. So those companies who embrace new technology will be those companies that will rule the world tomorrow. And the same thing for individuals, the same thing for nation states. And we can only hope that the nation state we are living in embraces Bitcoin at some point. If not, we might have to consider the move, because the companies and the countries that embrace it earlier and sooner, they will get all the capital and they will get all the talent, and they will be way better countries to live in than those countries who don't. And now the race started with 2025. For me, the official race for nation states started. It's a slow race. It's way slower than companies. And as the race for company adoption started in 2020 with Strategy, now the nation state adoption really started. We have literally the USA calling Bitcoin a strategic asset. This, I hear people saying, oh, it's just a name. They did not do anything except the name. The name matters. It matters how they look at it. It matters how they frame what Bitcoin is. Now, of course, we have to see, do they actually also write it in law? Because an executive order is good because it's quick here, but it's also bad because it's quickly gone. If there's another president coming, it's gone tomorrow. If the president wants, executive orders are quickly to reverse. But if it's written in law, it's very hard to get it out. If that law, the bill from Cynthia Lummis actually passes, it's really hard to get it out. Even if we get, I don't know, I forgot how this AOC administration next term. I don't think so. I think we get JD Vance probably. But if we get AOC, it will be very hard for her to get it out. And in 4 years, the amount of lobbying Bitcoiners will do in Washington, D.C., the amount of force that Bitcoiners will have as a political power, it's there. It's not reversible. Every day a new Bitcoiner gets born. So it's not something that you can get out again of people. So we have now this nation race started, and we'll see how it goes. The first people already started running, and imagine there is a tree with some apples, and people are like, oh, are those apples good? At some point, one guy stands up and is like, oh, let's run there. Let's see if the apple is good. He picks up the first apple. He bites the apple. He does not die. He's like, oh, that's a really good apple. At some point, someone else is like, oh, I also want an apple. But there are only so many apples on the apple tree. So if you're not running as fast as possible to the apple tree, you might have to wait till a new apple comes along. And the world with apple trees is a better world than the world without apple trees. So even the last nation state, even the last person adopting Bitcoin will benefit from it. But it's better to be number 2, not number 200 in the nation state race.
Yeah. It's it goes, but it's our lizard brain, isn't it? We're afraid of everything. How long did it take us to come from, to get out of the cave? Thousands of years, I'm sure. How long did it take us to, use the wheel and create carts? That old fear-based mindset is I mean, it's kept us alive as a species, but it's also perhaps held us back quite a lot. I was thinking the other day about how is the adoption of Bitcoin the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution? I think it possibly could be. Bitcoin coupled with AI and the potential abundance of energy production that we could see in the next 20, 50 years. Do you think we're on the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution?
Yeah, like however you want to call it, we are already seeing a whole new world. It's slowly getting started. We have now a borderless money with Bitcoin, where I already see it from a company. Let's say there is a company in Paraguay. They can send me money, and I have a freelancer working in Colombia. I can send them money, and I'm in Austria. It does not matter. Like it's just Bitcoin. It's just a Bitcoin address. Company borders all of a sudden doesn't matter anymore. I have one editor in chief that cuts my podcasts, so I pay him in fiat still. I guess at some point he will also demand Bitcoin, but as long as he demands fiat, I will pay him in fiat. But it's a lot more complicated. I have to get a lot more information from him. I have to get his address, like his physical address, and all this information. I have like 10 or 12 things that I have to fill out to make that possible. And then I have to pay fees. I have to pay, what is it? I think 5-6 euros per transaction. Plus he has to then also pay 5-6 euros on his side. I just made a Bitcoin transaction a week ago and I paid 70 cents. And the recipient didn't pay anything. I mean, he got the money. He doesn't pay anything to get money. So Bitcoin is already way more efficient as remittance money, but it's also way more efficient to get a burger if you have Lightning. It's so easy. And this is the one thing. We have the borderless money, but there are more things to it. I think to the new workplace, there are basically 3 different very important innovations. And the first thing I just mentioned, it's the borderless money. The second thing is borderless work. You can now go ahead and, as like I have someone in El Salvador and someone in Colombia working for me, it doesn't matter because we have one system. They can log in those systems, and we have remote tools like Google Meets or Zoom or whatever you're using. We are now working together on a live stream or like on a recording, and we are not in the same country. You are in the UK, I'm in Austria, and we can work together. We can collaborate. We don't have to be in the same room and have a camera there, and it works really good. I understand you good. Like there's no lag in there at all, and this will only get better. We might have VR headsets on, and it actually feels like we are in the same room, even though I don't know how good this is. It is the completely elimination of borders, of having limitations around where to work. So we have a limitless, borderless money. We have borderless work, and we have a game theory around the nations that have to compete now because of the first 2 things. Game theory around the nation states that have to compete for all the talents and for all the people. Because if all the best people can get their capital in Bitcoin and just move around and they don't have to do anything. Like if I go over the borders with my Bitcoin, you don't even know that I have Bitcoin. I might should change the shirt and not have a Bitcoin symbol on my shirt, but they don't know if I have Bitcoin or not. Then if I can work remotely, like I let's go back to the editor. He is now in Colombia. Maybe he's not. Like, I don't know. I don't know where he is. He could be somewhere else. It's just that he works and he does his work amazingly. He does a really good job, and that's all that matters, right? Like, who cares where this person is? So I think those 2 things will then accelerate the movement towards nation states having to compete for the best talent. Because if I can freely choose with my capital and my work wherever I want to go, and I'm not bound by any imaginary borders, you can go to the place that treats you best, that treats your Bitcoin best, that treats your taxes best, that treats your environment the best, that looks out for the country the best way. And there will be things like, hey, in this country, I pay a little bit more taxes, but they have parks and they are really clean. And it is a really nice country. I like to live there. Okay, I can pay a little bit more to live in that country. Or I want to pay less taxes. Oh, then I go to this country. Okay, it's not that clean. They don't have that beautiful of parks, but I save on the taxes. So you have a game theory going on. And I think those are the three things, no matter if you call it the fourth industrial revolution or whatever you want to call that thing. I think it's the vision of the sovereign individual in the end of the day. Those three things together really make a difference, and Bitcoin is the most important of them all. Money. if money is not free, then it does not matter. Like you can have remote work, you can have augmented reality, Zoom calls, whatever. If you cannot freely choose where you get your capital, you still have those imaginary borders that put you in that corner. But those sheeps get wings with Bitcoin, because all of a sudden we have those wings with Bitcoin and remote work, and we can go wherever we want to go.
Thinking about what you're saying, the free movement of people enabled by Bitcoin, one of the questions I was going to talk to you about was the demonetization of an asset class. So I'm just trying to join up some dots here. If Bitcoin enables free movement of people, and there's a strong bet that Bitcoin's going to demonetize asset classes, do you think that property becomes one of the first asset classes that gets demonetized by Bitcoin, and people can then purchase houses the way they were supposed to be purchased, as somewhere to live rather than, somewhere that you put your pension? Because I think, obviously, fiat currency is undermined, bastardized the property market completely.
Let's take a break for a moment and appreciate the beauty that Coin Vigilante has made with the Bitcoin watches. Those watches are the most amazing, the most elegant way of showing that you are a true Bitcoiner. And Coin Vigilante just dropped a completely new and amazing Genesis edition of their watch collections. You have the date of the first ever mined Bitcoin block in there, and of course also the block height and which epoch we are currently in. I love the level of detail they put in this masterpiece. Make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. And now, if you have Bitcoin, I really do hope that you don't have it on exchange. But if you do have it on exchange, I have two ways for you to deal with that. The first way is you put it on a hardware wallet. That's the entry for you to get into the self-custody game. I recommend BitBox, Bitcoin only edition, for that. It's a super simple and secure way. And if you check out the link in the description, you even get 5% off if you use the code Robin. And the second way is the Bitcoin Way. The Bitcoin Way is your all-in partner in terms of how to get the most out of your sovereignty. They will personalize for you a self-custody setup that is perfect for your individual situation. They will show you how you can secure your own devices. Securing your Bitcoin is not enough. You also have to keep all your devices secure. One topic that is overlooked often is the inheritance plan. What happens with your Bitcoin once you are no longer here? Do you have a plan for that in place already? And last but not least, if you're in jurisdictions where you don't feel safe, it's better to get a plan B. For all that, head over to thebitcoinway.com/Robin to get a 30-minute free call. And just a quick side note, I will be for the first time ever speaking at the Bitcoin Prague event in June. It will be absolutely legendary, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you there. You can get your ticket in the link down in the description of Bitcoin Prague, and very important, use code Robin to get 10% off your ticket. I'm really looking forward seeing you there. When you look at housing and the house price in the last 5 to 10 years, they have been consistently going up. When you measure it in the fiat local terms, in the fiat local currencies, they have been going up 5, 10, maybe 15%, depending on the region and where you are. But then if you flip that and measure that in Bitcoin, demonetization already started. What was the numbers? 5 years ago, I think I've got the numbers right. 5 years ago in the US, a typical house costed 36 Bitcoin. Now it's like 5 Bitcoin, 6 Bitcoin, maybe, depending on the region. And in 5, 10 more years, maybe it's 1 Bitcoin, maybe it's 0.5 Bitcoin. So the demonetization already started. And it's all asset classes. If you denominate your wealth in Bitcoin, everything else gets cheaper. And that's something so simple, but you really have to feel that. I think we as Bitcoiner, we say quickly, oh yeah, like you denominate things in Bitcoin and you save in Bitcoin and all the other things get cheaper. But we don't feel that until we really get it. Imagine someone buying 2 years ago 5 Bitcoin. They have those 5 Bitcoin, that's their life savings, that's all they got. Now they need all their stack to buy one home. They needed 5 Bitcoins to buy their home. Then they just save. They get a little bit more Bitcoin. Maybe they get up to like 5.5 Bitcoin. They have a conservative job. They can just earn a little bit more each year, but they maybe get to 5.5 or 6 Bitcoin over the next 5-10 years. They don't have a lot more Bitcoin. Like 5 Bitcoin to 6 Bitcoin is not that big of a step. But what if they can now purchase a home for 1 Bitcoin? All of a sudden, it's not all their stack, it's just 20% or 18% of their stack, and they can buy a house with that. Then they wait another 10 years, and all of a sudden, it's 0.2 Bitcoin for a house. And they're like, oh, wow. Like, all of a sudden, I just have to wait. I just don't have, if I keep the same Bitcoin that I already have, at some point I can buy a house with that. That's the thing that people then really get, and they feel the prices going down. And this will really come into place when a lot of people, and they're all now coming in, they're all coming in the past cycles, can all of a sudden buy houses in 5, 10 years because they got demonetized so much. And this will be an amazing thing for Bitcoiners to have. And I think you might wanna delay a purchase of the house as long as humanly possible if you don't need it emotionally. So if you need it emotionally, like, of course, then buy it. Like that it's your life. Like you have to buy it if you really need it. But if you don't need it emotionally and you're just trying to make a financial decision, it's better to just wait like another 5 years and 10 years, because maybe you only need half of your stack or 10% of your stack to buy a home. That's a lot better than putting all your stack now for a house. So that whole demonetization will come quicker and is already happening. Look at if you look at the real estate price in Bitcoin the last 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, it's minus 99.9%, something like that. It's going really quickly down because Bitcoin is going really quickly up. And if you set Bitcoin as the denomination, everything gets cheaper. We always say that, but I think we really have to feel this. If you have to denominate your wealth in Bitcoin, and you have to come to a place where you really have, oh, I have Bitcoin as my unit of account, and you price things in Bitcoin, and then you really get, oh shit, everything gets cheaper. Oh, I can just chill out. I can have a lower time preference. I can just work and chill out and wait, and then all of a sudden things get magically cheaper.
Yeah. I heard a phrase a while back. Somebody said, "Oh, you got to start thinking Bitcoin." I was like, "What the fuck does that mean? Like thinking Bitcoin?" And I kind of worked out what it meant. And once you actually start thinking Bitcoin, you go, "Oh shit, I see. I get it now." And I think one of the benefits with that phrase is when you start to understand it is your time preference changes, and you start to like you said, delay things and think about it a bit more and go, do I need this? Do I need this new car every 3 years? No, probably not.
It made me realize I had to struggle with that. It was actually not that hard. It was actually not that easy for me having a Bitcoin income and having a fiat income, because I really wanted to spend my fiat income and not my Bitcoin income. But the Bitcoin income grew so much that I had to spend it. And in the beginning, it was I thought I might just borrow against my Bitcoin because I really don't want to spend it. It's this digital. It's my digital Manhattan, and I don't want to spend the Manhattan property. I want to borrow against it and make it work. But it's money. We have to spend it if we want to live. And especially if you spend it in a way where you still have more Satoshis at the end of the month than in the beginning of the month, you did not spend any Satoshis. You earn more Satoshis. That's the big thing. So I guess thinking in Bitcoin means storing your wealth in Bitcoin, spending in Bitcoin, seeing it as your unit of account, and being 100% on Bitcoin. And I mean, there's this question of like, what does qualify as a Bitcoiner? And for me, everyone is a Bitcoiner who holds or uses Bitcoin in some capacity. But if you really want to benefit and embrace that new revolution, go as all in as you possibly can, and your how should I say it? Your risk appetite allows, your conviction allows. There is some nuance to it. So if you, I don't know, have 4 kids and a company, you need fiat reserves, maybe you need some operating cash. Also the Bitcoin companies, the strategy companies, they also have operating cash flows for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. So always really think deeply of what do you need, and is it good to go all in, or how to do it. I just chose I'm all in. I don't care for fiat operating cash. I'm 26. I can do that.
Have you thought about, and have you come up with a timeline when, how can I put this, when it would be more mainstream to operate on a Bitcoin standard rather than juggling those two?
I think 2050, it would be unreasonable. In 2050, it would be very reasonable to assume that you can earn in Bitcoin, pay in Bitcoin, and live 100% on Bitcoin on most parts in the world. I think that's a very reasonable assumption. Look at how far we got in the first 16 years. To 2050, it's another 25 years. So that's a time frame I'm looking at where we can say that we are kind of on a Bitcoin standard. There might still be fiat around, but you might not need it. Actually, there is not a real need for having that fiat currencies. Maybe you need it for paying taxes. It's more like a government token at that point. Yeah. So those things might still be around, but it's so small. Like I always make that example with horses. There's this first example in the streets of what was it, New York, I think, 1920, 1910, whatever this is. And there are 2 pictures. The first picture is only horses, 1 car. 10 years later, only cars, 1 horse. But hundreds of years later, in Vienna, 2025, we still have horses on the road. So it's still there. Like people still, we for a brief period of time, we even had police on horses in Austria. We no longer have it, but we have horses and carriages in the streets of Vienna where you can take tours with them, and you can basically go around with the horses. And the same thing might apply to fiat. Maybe we always have government tokens that you have to interact with, that you have to change for Bitcoin, and when you want to get into social credit systems, when you want to get into paying taxes, when you want to get into the hospital, and there's like some government social credit system for paying taxes. So I personally don't want that, but I could imagine that. I have a hard time seeing that China, for example, completely erased their capital controls in 2050. I don't know if we can win that battle. It's a really hard battle to win. Let's first focus on embracing Bitcoin and making Bitcoin the main thing that we can do. But getting China to completely embrace Bitcoin, being on a full Bitcoin standard, that might not be the case in 25 years. So there might still be places where Bitcoin adoption is not as big as it could be. Those nations will lag behind. Those nations will have a harder future than those nations that actually embrace it. Those will be rewarded for embracing that. So I think 2050, it would be very reasonable to assume that. And everything before that is also possible. We can be at the same stage that I just described already in 2035. It would be a little bit more aggressive. I don't think we come that quick there. But if it happens, it would also not surprise me. It would not be like, oh, like, we got too quickly there. See how far we got in the last 5 years. 5 years ago, not a single publicly traded company was in Bitcoin. Now we have nation states talking about strategic reserves. Think about what can happen in the next 10 years. So the timeline is hard to predict. And I would never say like, oh, this date and this is exactly how it will shake out, because human brains are still slow to adopt. But I think in 2050, it would be very reasonable to assume that Bitcoin is the main asset that most people save in and transact in.
Yeah. The numbers, I try and think of the scale of Bitcoin. The numbers just become obscene. You know, like what's the global asset is 900 trillion or something crazy. And if Bitcoin was to take 10% of that, which I think is reasonable, I mean, it would probably take more, maybe 50%, but let's say 10%. That's a $90 trillion asset that Bitcoin is. Like, what would the price be then? And how much, like you say, how much is your Bitcoin worth? How many houses could you buy even if you had like £500 worth of Bitcoin right now? That's a lot of houses. The numbers just become ridiculous.
I think you're very conservative in those examples. I think
but I'm British.
Yeah, like the 900 trillion. What is above trillions? I forgot. What is if we have like 100 trillion more than 900 trillion? I forgot. Like how's it called?
Oh, I can't remember.
The thing. But yeah, like 1,000 trillions. Let's say it that way. I think we are now Jesse Myers is, I think, the guy that always makes those graphics that also Seyr uses, and he updated it now that we have 1,000 trillions in the global assets, and that's my problem with all those altcoin projects. My problem with all the noise in the game, because they always say, oh, like we have the better thing that really makes that small use case better. But it's such a small opportunity. If you look at Bitcoin, what is the opportunity for Bitcoin? Just the money part is a $500 trillion opportunity. So in my situation that I just described for 2050, most of those 500 trillion is in Bitcoin. I'm talking 450 trillion. And this in today's dollars terms. So without inflation, that's the worth of Bitcoin right now, here and right now, 400 trillion. Now we are at 2 trillion. of total market cap, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a whole lot of more wealth in Bitcoin. That's a 20x. What is it? Yeah, 20x from here just to get to do that. I made I think a calculation mistake in there probably. But anyways, it's a huge opportunity that kind of Bitcoin has in that.
Yeah. But we're also not accounting for the exponential economic growth with AI and robotics. I'm going to mess this up. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Elon Musk has made a prediction that the economy will grow forever, global economy. But it also makes me think, like, if we get to that point, is inflation going to be a thing then? Or do we expand global money for a different reason? I can't think of why, but I can't help but think that we get to the point where we don't have inflation anymore.
We will always have deflation measured in Bitcoin. By the way, I made the mistake of not 20x, 200x from here. So if we capture the 400 trillion, it's 200x and not 20x. Obviously, I missed zero, but I'm really bad in multitasking. So calculating and speaking, I got to know that this is really bad. And I have to calculate it before, and then I can speak about it. And you're right. We don't expand, but we get more efficient. And as we get more efficient, things get cheaper. That's how. What's the natural? That's the Jeff Booth whole thing about Jeff Booth. The natural state of the economy and everything in the world is deflationary. We get better and more efficient in doing things. So the same value of Bitcoin, even if we are, let's say we are at total mass adoption of Bitcoin. Everyone has it. We are 100% in there, and we do not have more humans. We always stay the same human species, and we also don't discover aliens or anything like that. So we do not expand anymore. Let's say if we are a closed world where there are no more humans and there's no more alien species, or there's no more expanding to other planets, in that situation, still Bitcoin would go up in purchasing power every year, because we will get better in producing things, and Bitcoin might get lost still every year. I don't know about that, but even if it doesn't get lost, there's like not a single Bitcoin that gets lost. Even that situation, Bitcoin still gets a little bit more valuable each year for like 0.5%. 1%, maybe 5%, depending on if we have something big, especially with AI and all those different things that come out. Because we don't know what human species is really capable of. Think 200 years back. Do you think anyone would have guessed that we have AI now? Like, how would you even think of that? There was no electricity. There was like no computers. Think of a caveman. Would he have guessed that we'll have like small black bricks that can tell us whatever we want to hear about the world? That we can look into like a black round thing and talk to the whole world all at once from our cave. We have no clue what human civilization will go towards in the coming 1,000, 2,000 years. So we will get a lot of more efficient in that. So I would frame it as we don't expand, we don't get bigger, we get more efficient in doing things. And if we have a fixed money, we'll get an increase in our purchasing power. And Bitcoin not only has this perfect money and savings technology in it, it has a second thing also. It gets adopted also. So you get the efficiency of the human race each year, But we have this volatility in this high growth phase because more people discover it every day. So it's the perfect savings technology today, and it's the best investment you can make today. This is the genius of adopting Bitcoin right now, because in 50 years, you only get the one thing. Now you get both things. In 50 years, it's not an investment anymore. Nobody will speak of Bitcoin as an investment in 50 years, because it will be like, oh, like what, investing? No, it's like, it's your money. Like it's like saying now, oh, I invest in the euro.
Yeah.
That would be ridiculous to say. Nobody would take you seriously. And it's more of an investment than Bitcoin, actually, because Bitcoin is the actual money, and the euro is a foreign currency that you can trade in, that you can maybe invest in. Yeah. But people say like, oh, you're like stupid. Like, why would you invest in euro? Like that's a stupid thing to say. The same thing will be there if Bitcoin in 50 years is as adopted as I think. People will be like, oh, like, oh, you're not investing in Bitcoin, you're saving in Bitcoin. You can invest in companies, you can invest in AI agents, like things like that, but you cannot invest in Bitcoin.
Yeah. Is there anything that you can think of that will make this fall apart, that will make Bitcoin fail?
Yeah, there are a couple situations that I could think of. My favorite example is that there are alien civilizations coming to Earth with better technology, better money. They are dominating us and putting their monetary system onto us, and they are just destroying Bitcoin because they are so superior. That might be a reason that Bitcoin goes down, but like, what else would you do? You don't have an alien-resistant money. And that Bitcoin is the still your best shot. Maybe the aliens are integrating Bitcoin.
Maybe they run their own nodes for it.
Exactly.
Maybe that's why they come and they go, hey, they're using this Bitcoin stuff. Maybe you should go check it out.
Exactly. So that's one possibility, but it's very far out. Then there's always the possibility of a black swan in the code that just like we all overlooked in the code, and there's a huge bug in there that at some point just implodes the system, and people can then spend and without and stuff like that. Like there's just like some big bug in there. I would put that possibility at like 0.0001, but it's a possibility. Like we should not rule it out. There's nothing with zero risk. There's no 100% guarantee. But Bitcoin is the closest thing to 0% risk. Yes. And I'm always telling these people, I can think of 50 reasons why Bitcoin fails. But how likely are those? How likely is it that there is now a bug in the system? How likely is it that there's an alien civilization coming? How likely is it that that something else in Bitcoin happens, or that we all of a sudden all agree on, hey, like let's focus on another project? That's very, 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 very low possibility. So I do not think that Bitcoin will fail, and it has a chance of being the end-all, be-all money. I'm not saying it is the end-all, be-all money, but it has a good chance of that, because all the previous money forms were not moldable. Bitcoin is code, and you can change the software, you can change the code. We can fork Bitcoin. If we really come to the conclusion, hey, we now have civilization on Mars, and we cannot transact in Bitcoin in Mars, we don't need a Mars coin. We might just be able to change Bitcoin in a way so we can transact not only on Earth with Bitcoin, but also on Mars with Bitcoin. So it has a good chance of being the end-all, be-all money. And therefore, I always ask, even if there's risks, what else would you do right now? Like, what what else is there that you can put your money in? The euro? This I can tell you, the euro does not survive the next 50 years. I can tell you that. I would bet with everyone any amount that the euro is not there in 50 years. It might be there with a different name or in a different form. Maybe the European Bank has some sort of fiat government token, but it's either completely gone or 99.99% of the value is gone. So that's pretty sure for me.
Yeah, far more likely.
Yeah, then you go to gold, then you're like, yeah, gold already failed as a medium of exchange. It still has some store of value aspect to it, but it already failed as a medium of exchange. I do not even pay with cash. I pay with my phone. I pay everything with my phone, either Bitcoin or credit card. So this is nothing for the new generation. The new generation does not want to deal with cash. They don't want to deal with gold. They want to deal with digital things, and this will only accelerate. This will only get crazier. At some point, nobody wants to do anything physical. We will have robots to do that. I'm moving tomorrow to a new apartment. I don't want to do that. I want to have a robot that packs my stuff, carries my stuff, and puts my stuff. I don't want to do that. So we have something digital. So gold is definitely not as valuable in 50 years as it's now compared to Bitcoin. Then what else do we have? Stocks. Companies will go under. Look 50 years back in the stock market and look at the top 5 companies. Yeah. You don't even know them. Do you think you know now which 5 companies will be the top 5 companies in 50 years? I have no clue. I can tell you that Bitcoin will be up there and will be probably the best and biggest asset, but I have no clue which company will be up there in 50 years. Probably the company that will be number 1 in 50 years doesn't even exist right now. So what else do you have? Like government bonds? It's like, come on, don't be serious. There's no real other solution outside of Bitcoin. I would not know what I would sell it for. If I'm forced to sell Bitcoin, I'm just spending it on my own knowledge, on my own skills, and in my own company. That's the only thing that I know that probably has a higher return of investment. If I can invest in my knowledge, in my skills, that's probably the only place you can put your Bitcoin that has a higher return on investment than just keeping it in Bitcoin. Yeah, maybe you can invest in Bitcoin mining. That's also an interesting idea, but I'm not into that deeply. And I do a little bit of mining, but not really. So what else can you put your money in? There's nothing really like, and this is basically how Seyr did it. He went through all the assets. What can I buy? I have 400 million. I remember back then he just had 400 million on the balance sheet, and he asked himself, how can I? There's definitely something wrong with the US dollar. Where can I park my money that it doesn't melt? Bitcoin. He went through everything. He researched every freaking asset, every stock, every gold, everything, real estate. Do you think real estate? Do you think a place to live will have the same value in 50 years when we already see now it getting demonetized so quickly?
No way.
It's a consumption good. And people say, oh yeah, like real estate is scarce. No, it's not. We humans are really creative. We will build up. We have a lot of forest. There's a lot of water on Earth. Maybe we'll build something on top of the water. Dubai. That was not existing previously. So I don't get the saying that real estate is scarce. No. Like if demand for houses go up drastically, there will be companies that build more houses, that will build out more land. In Austria is amazing examples. We have a small village where there are 10 houses, then you drive 30 minutes where there's nothing, and then there's another village. Like Austria is, I think Donald Trump said it once. Oh, like Austria is just a bunch of trees and they're living in the jungle. It's not like that, but we have a lot of trees and a lot of forests. So I don't get that real estate is any scarce asset. So again, for the situation, why could Bitcoin fail? Like, what else would you buy?
That's I can't think of anything else. Baseball cards, maybe.
Yeah, that's one thing that I left out. There's collectibles, there's cars, there is those things, but you really don't want to be in a situation where you're forced that your financial default, your savings technology, is in collectibles.
Yeah,
those can get ruined. You can trip over them. You can spill coffee over the cards. you can have an accident with your car that is so valuable. So you want to have something solid, something really nice as a store of value. And that's only Bitcoin. There's nothing else. This is the realization that I had. I thought I want to review a little bit what I've learned from all those podcasts that I've done. And I've sat down and just wrote. I was like, okay, what did I learn? And there might be a book coming later this year or next year from that process. But the thing that I've came to know is that Bitcoin is not just like an investment, not just a money, not just another investment thing. That might really change how we interact with each other. It is so much bigger than just, hey, where do I park my money? Because Bitcoin is obviously, with a huge distance, the best option for that, as we just discussed the last like 10, 20 minutes. But it has such a profound impact on humanity in ways we can only speculate on. So the more I look into Bitcoin, the more I talk with people in and outside of Bitcoin about Bitcoin, I realize it's coming. It's inevitable, and it is way bigger than people think. And I also came to know that even Bitcoiners are not really bullish enough on Bitcoin. They all, like, there's Samson Mao, there is CK, there are some people that really get the grasp of that, how big it could be. But on a long enough time horizon, Bitcoin changes everything.
So if Bitcoin is an investment, maybe we could finish it off by saying Bitcoin is the greatest investment because it's an investment in the future of humanity.
I love that. That's really great.
So if you want humanity to thrive and succeed, buy Bitcoin.
That's I just had the podcast yesterday, literally, and this is an ethical view on Bitcoin, and maybe that's a really great way to end the podcast. Think about a fiat world and a Bitcoin world, and imagine you sleep tonight and you don't know who you will wake up as. So you might wake up as the president. You might wake up as someone in Brazil where they do not even have banking. You lost everything, and you just wake up as a new person, and you have whatever they have. In the first situation, you wake up in a fiat world. In the second situation, you wake up in a Bitcoin world. In what situation do you want to wake up? In the fiat world, you might be on the top of the ladder. You might be a quintillionaire that really benefits from the fiat world. and you have access to the banking system. But you might also wake up in a part of the world where you don't even have access to the banking accounts. You don't have access to anything, and you might die this one day because you don't get food. You might die on that day. And then the same situation, but with Bitcoin. In a whole Bitcoin world where everyone has Bitcoin and everyone transacts in Bitcoin, you have the situation where you can get to money. Even if you are the worst possible of those 8 billion people, at least you have the chance of connecting with the monetary system, because the monetary system is open and permissionless for everyone and doesn't exclude anyone. You can transact on the world. You can put proof of work in, and you will be in a way better situation. Obviously, there is like now places that don't have internet and those kind of things, and where there will be for a very long time also no Bitcoin, but that's not the fault of Bitcoin. But it's the fault of the fiat system that there are people unbanked. It's crazy for me that there are more people with a smartphone and an internet connection than there are people with a bank account. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
If you have a bank, if you have internet and a phone, you have Bitcoin. But if you have internet and a phone, you don't automatically also have fiat, because you need permission to have a bank account. And I had an interview with an African lady, and she told me about the story how Bitcoin kind of saved her, because her husband did not want to give her access to the bank account because it was just not a tradition in her village. So she, when she wanted to spend something, had to get the permission of the husband. It's a world that I cannot even imagine. I live in Austria. Like here, it's normal that everyone has a bank account. Yeah. But it's today where there are women that don't have an access to bank account, but the man has. With Bitcoin, it's not possible. She goes to a bank and they don't even allow her to have a bank account because she needs the signature of the husband so she can get a bank account. It's something that I think in Austria and the UK and most people watching have a hard time understanding how bad the banking system really is. So from an ethical standpoint, do you want to wake up tomorrow as a random person in fiat or in a Bitcoin world? And I want to wake up in a Bitcoin world.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, that was powerful. That was really, really good. Is there anything you want to mention before we part ways? I really enjoyed talking to you, Robin. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Not really. Be curious and stay hungry.
Stay hungry. Awesome. Rob, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you, buddy. I wish you all the success in the future for your endeavors. I mean, well, you're already successful doing what you're doing. If I could, get a quarter of the way where you are, then I'll be a happy man. But I'm here just trying to accelerate adoption in the UK, having conversations with people that know a hell of a lot more than I do. Hopefully, this podcast might change somebody's life. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And by the way, for everyone that is watching and listening, do Leah in favor. It really helps if you enjoyed this talk to share it and to get it across to many more people. Not only you support Bitcoin by that, but also you support a creator. And we need as many educators as possible in the space. We are so few people that educate on Bitcoin versus how many people there are educating on crypto, educating on traditional financial ETF stocks things. We need to 100x the numbers of podcasts, TikTokers, Instagram people that do Twitter and all those educators and content creators stuff. We need so many more. And if you are listening to podcasts, you should and you can support the host and the speakers by just sharing the message. It literally just takes like 5 seconds, and you're like sending it on Twitter, and just like that really makes a difference for the algorithms on YouTube and on all the platforms that there is. And it helps get the Bitcoin message way further than you think, because you send a signal to YouTube that this Bitcoin content, that you really enjoyed this one.
Rob, thank you, mate. I really appreciate you.
See you.